The Work Before Us, delivered at the Triplicane Literary Society, Madras. The problem of life is becoming deeper and broader every day as the world moves on. The watchword and the essence have been preached in the days of yore when the Vedantic truth was first discovered, the solidarity of all life. One atom in this universe cannot move without dragging the whole world along with it. There cannot be any progress without the whole world following in the way. And it is becoming every day dearer that the solution of any problem can never be attained on racial or national or narrow grounds. Every idea has to become broad till it covers the whole of this world. Every aspiration must go on increasing till it has engulfed the whole of humanity, nay, the whole of life, within its scope. This will explain why our country for the last few centuries has not been what she was in the past. We find that one of the causes which led to this degeneration was the narrowing of our views, narrowing the scope of our actions. Two curious nations there have been, sprung of the same race, but placed in different circumstances and environments, working out the problems of life each in its own particular way. I mean the ancient Hindu and the ancient Greek. The Indian Aryan, bounded on the north by the snow caps of the Himalayas, with freshwater rivers like rolling oceans surrounding him in the plains, with eternal forests which to him seemed to be the end of the world, turned his vision inward, and given the natural instinct, the superfine brain of the Aryan, with this sublime scenery surrounding him, the natural result was that he became introspective. The analysis of his own mind was the great theme of the Indo Aryan. With the Greek, on the other hand, who arrived at a part of the earth which was more beautiful than sublime, the beautiful islands of the Grecian archipelago, nature all around him generous yet simple. His mind naturally went outside. It wanted to analyze the external world, and as a result, we find that from India have sprung all the analytical sciences, and from Greece all the sciences of generalization. The Hindu mind went on in its own direction and produced the most marvelous results. Even at the present day, the logical capacity of the Hindus and the tremendous power which the Indian brain still possesses is beyond compare. We all know that our boys pitched against the boys of any other country triumph always. At the same time, when the national vigor went, perhaps 1 or 2 centuries before the Mohammedan conquest of India, this national faculty became so much exaggerated that it degraded itself. And we find some of this degradation in everything in India, in art, in music, in sciences, in everything. In art, no more was there a broad conception, no more the symmetry of form and sublimity of conception, but the tremendous attempt at the ornate and florid style had arisen. The originality of the race seemed to have been lost. In music, no more were there the soul stirring ideas of the ancient Sanskrit music, no more did each note stand, as it were, on its own feet and produce the marvelous harmony, but each note had lost its individuality. The whole of modern music is a jumble of notes, a confused mass of curves. That is a sign of degradation in music. So, if you analyze your idealistic conceptions, you will find the same attempt at ornate figures and loss of originality. And even in religion, your special field, there came the most horrible degradations. What can you expect of a race which for hundreds of years has been busy in discussing such momentous problems as whether we should drink a glass of water with the right hand or the left? What more degradation can there be than the greatest minds of a country have been discussing about the kitchen for several hundreds of years, discussing whether I may touch you or you touch me, and what is the penance for this touching? The themes of the Vedanta, the sublimest and the most glorious conceptions of God and soul ever preached on earth, were half lost, buried in the forests, preserved by a few sannyasins, while the rest of the nation discussed the momentous questions of touching each other and dress and food. The Mohammedan conquest gave us many good things, no doubt. Even the lowest man in the world can teach something to the highest. At the same time, it could not bring vigor into the race. Then, for good or evil, the English conquest of India took place. Of course, every conquest is bad, for conquest is an evil. Foreign government is an evil, no doubt. But even through evil comes good sometimes. And the great good of the English conquest is this: England, nay, the whole of Europe, has to thank Greece for its civilization. It is Greece that speaks through everything in Europe. Every building, every piece of furniture has the impress of Greece upon it. European science and art are nothing but Grecian. Today, the ancient Greek is meeting the ancient Hindu on the soil of India. Thus, slowly and silently, the leaven has come. The broadening, the life giving, and the revivalist movement that we see all around us has been worked out by these forces together. A broader and more generous conception of life is before us, and although at first we have been deluded a little and wanted to narrow things down, we are finding out today that these generous impulses which are at work, these broader conceptions of life, are the logical interpretation of what is in our ancient books. They are the carrying out, to the rigorously logical effect, of the primary conceptions of our own ancestors. To become broad, to go out, to amalgamate, to universalize is the end of our aims. And all the time we have been making ourselves smaller and smaller and dissociating ourselves, contrary to the plans laid down in our scriptures. Several dangers are in the way, and one is that of the extreme conception that we are the people in the world. With all my love for India, and with all my patriotism and veneration for the ancients, I cannot but think that we have to learn many things from other nations. We must be always ready to sit at the feet of all, for mark you, every one can teach us great lessons. Says our great lawgiver Manu, receive some good knowledge even from the low born, and even from the man of lowest birth, learn by service the road to heaven. We therefore, as true children of Manu, must obey his commands and be ready to learn the lessons of this life or the life hereafter from anyone who can teach us. At the same time, we must not forget that we have also to teach a great lesson to the world. We cannot do without the world outside India. It was our foolishness that we thought we could, and we have paid the penalty by about 1,000 years of slavery. That we did not go out to compare things with other nations, did not mark the workings that have been all around us, has been the one great cause of this degradation of the Indian mind. We have paid the penalty. Let us do it no more. All such foolish ideas that Indians must not go out of India are childish. They must be knocked on the head. The more you go out and travel among the nations of the world, the better for you and for your country. If you had done that for hundreds of years past, you would not be here today at the feet of every nation that wants to rule India. The first manifest effect of life is expansion. You must expand if you want to live. The moment you have ceased to expand, death is upon you. Danger is ahead. I went to America and Europe, to which you so kindly allude. I have to, because that is the first sign of the revival of national life, expansion. This reviving national life, expanding inside, threw me off, and thousands will be thrown off in that way. Mark my words, it has got to come if this nation lives at all. This question, therefore, is the greatest of the signs of the revival of national life, and through this expansion, our quota of offering to the general mass of human knowledge, our contribution to the general upheaval of the world, is going out to the external world. Again, this is not a new thing. Those of you who think that the Hindus have been always confined within the four walls of their country through all ages are entirely mistaken. You have not studied the old books. You have not studied the history of the race aright if you think so. Each nation must give in order to live. When you give life, you will have life. When you receive, you must pay for it by giving to all others. And that we have been living for so many thousands of years is a fact that stares us in the face. And the solution that remains is that we have been always giving to the outside world, whatever the ignorant may think. But the gift of India is the gift of religion and philosophy, and wisdom and spirituality. And religion does not want cohorts to march before its path and clear its way. Wisdom and philosophy do not want to be carried on floods of blood. Wisdom and philosophy do not march upon bleeding human bodies, do not march with violence, but come on the wings of peace and love. And that has always been so. Therefore, we had to give. I was asked by a young lady in London, "What have you Hindus done? You have never even conquered a single nation." That is true from the point of view of the Englishman, the brave, the heroic, the Kshatriya. Conquest is the greatest glory that one man can have over another. That is true from his point of view, but from ours it is quite the opposite. If I ask myself what has been the cause of India's greatness, I answer, because we have never conquered. That is our glory. You are hearing every day, and sometimes, I'm sorry to say, from men who ought to know better, denunciations of our religion, because it is not at all a conquering religion. To my mind, that is the argument why our religion is truer than any other religion, because it never conquered, because it never shed blood, because its mouth always shed on all words of blessing, of peace, words of love, and sympathy. It is here and here alone that the ideals of toleration were first preached, and it is here and here alone that toleration and sympathy have become practical. It is theoretical in every other country. It is here and here alone that the Hindu builds mosques for the Mohammedans and churches for the Christians. So you see, our message has gone out to the world many a time, but slowly, silently, unperceived. It is on a par with everything in India. The one characteristic of Indian thought is its silence, its calmness. At the same time, the tremendous power that is behind it is never expressed by violence. It is always the silent mesmerism of Indian thought. If a foreigner takes up our literature to study, at first it is disgusting to him. There is not the same stir, perhaps, the same amount of go that rouses him instantly. Compare the tragedies of Europe with our tragedies. The one is full of action that rouses you for the moment, but when it is over, there comes the reaction, and everything is gone, washed off as it were from your brains. Indian tragedies are like the mesmerist's power, quiet, silent, but as you go on studying them, they fascinate you. You cannot move, you are bound, and whoever has dared to touch our literature has felt the bondage, and is there bound for ever. Like the gentle dew that falls unseen and unheard, and yet brings into blossom the fairest of roses, has been the contribution of India to the thought of the world. Silent, unperceived, yet omnipotent in its effect, it has revolutionized the thought of the world, yet nobody knows when it did so. It was once remarked to me how difficult it is to ascertain the name of any writer in India, to which I replied, that is the Indian idea. Indian writers are not like modern writers who steal 90% of their ideas from other authors, while only 10% is their own, and they take care to write a preface in which they say, for these ideas I am responsible. Those great masterminds producing momentous results in the hearts of mankind were content to write their books without even putting their names, and to die quietly, leaving the books to posterity. Who knows the writers of our philosophy? Who knows the writers of our Puranas? They all pass under the generic name of Vyasa and Kapila and so on. They have been true children of Sri Krishna. They have been true followers of the Gita. They practically carried out the great mandate: to work you have the right, but not to the fruits thereof. Thus, India is working upon the world, but one condition is necessary. Thoughts like merchandise can only run through channels made by somebody. Roads have to be made before even thought can travel from one place to another. And whenever in the history of the world a great conquering nation has arisen, linking the different parts of the world together, then has poured through these channels the thought of India and thus entered into the veins of every race. Before even the Buddhists were born, there are evidences accumulating every day that Indian thought penetrated the world. Before Buddhism, Vedanta had penetrated into China, into Persia, and the islands of the Eastern archipelago. Again, when the mighty mind of the Greek had linked the different parts of the Eastern world together, there came Indian thought. And Christianity, with all its boasted civilization, is but a collection of little bits of Indian thought. Ours is the religion of which Buddhism, with all its greatness, is a rebel child, and of which Christianity is a very patchy imitation. One of these cycles has again arrived. There is the tremendous power of England, which has linked the different parts of the world together. English roads no more are content like Roman roads to run over lands, but they have also ploughed the deep in all directions. From ocean to ocean run the roads of England. Every part of the world has been linked to every other part, and electricity plays a most marvelous part as the new messenger. Under all these circumstances, we find again India reviving and ready to give her own quota to the progress and civilization of the world. And that I have been forced, as it were by nature, to go over and preach to America and England is the result. Every one of us ought to have seen that the time had arrived. Everything looks propitious, and Indian thought, philosophical and spiritual, must once more go over and conquer the world. The problem before us, therefore, is assuming larger proportions every day. It is not only that we must revive our own country, that is a smaller matter. I am an imaginative man, and my idea is the conquest of the whole world by the Hindu race. There have been great conquering races in the world. We also have been great conquerors. The story of our conquest has been described by that noble emperor of India, Ashoka, as the conquest of religion and of spirituality. Once more, the world must be conquered by India. This is the dream of my life, and I wish that each one of you who hear me today will have the same dream in your minds, and stop not till you have realized the dream. They will tell you every day that we had better look to our own homes first and then go to work outside. But I will tell you in plain language that you work best when you work for others. The best work that you ever did for yourselves was when you worked for others, trying to disseminate your ideas in foreign languages beyond the seas. And this very meeting is proof how the attempt to enlighten other countries with your thoughts is helping your own country. One fourth of the effect that has been produced in this country by my going to England and America would not have been brought about had I confined my ideas only to India. This is the great ideal before us, and everyone must be ready for it. The conquest of the whole world by India, nothing less than that, and we must all get ready for it, strain every nerve for it. Let foreigners come and flood the land with their armies. Never mind. Up, India, and conquer the world with your spirituality. I, as has been declared on this soil first, love must conquer hatred. Hatred cannot conquer itself. Materialism and all its miseries can never be conquered by materialism. Armies, when they attempt to conquer armies, only multiply and make brutes of humanity. Spirituality must conquer the West. Slowly they are finding out that what they want is spirituality to preserve them as nations. They are waiting for it. They are eager for it. Where is the supply to come from? Where are the men ready to go out to every country in the world with the messages of the great sages of India? Where are the men who are ready to sacrifice everything so that this message shall reach every corner of the world? Such heroic spurs are wanted to help the spread of truth. Such heroic workers are wanted to go abroad and help to disseminate the great truths of the Vedanta. The world wants it. Without it, the world will be destroyed. The whole of the Western world is on a volcano which may burst tomorrow, go to pieces tomorrow. They have searched every corner of the world and have found no respite. They have drunk deep of the cup of pleasure and found it vanity. Now is the time to work so that India's spiritual ideas may penetrate deep into the West. Therefore, young men of Madras, I especially ask you to remember this. We must go out. We must conquer the world through our spirituality and philosophy. There is no other alternative. We must do it or die. The only condition of national life, of awakened and vigorous national life, is the conquest of the world by Indian thought. At the same time, we must not forget that what I mean by the conquest of the world by spiritual thought is the sending out of the life giving principles, not the hundreds of superstitions that we have been hugging to our breasts for centuries. These have to be weeded out even on this soil and thrown aside, so that they may die forever. These are the causes of the degradation of the race and will lead to softening of the brain. That brain which cannot think high and noble thoughts, which has lost all power of originality, which has lost all vigor, that brain which is always poisoning itself with all sorts of little superstitions passing under the name of religion, we must beware of. In our sight, here in India, there are several dangers. Of these, the two, Scylla and Charybdis, rank materialism, and its opposite, arrant superstition, must be avoided. There is the man today who, after drinking the cup of Western wisdom, thinks that he knows everything. He laughs at the ancient sages. All Hindu thought to him is arrant trash, philosophy mere child's prattle, and religion the superstition of fools. On the other hand, there is the man educated, but a sort of monomaniac, who runs to the other extreme and wants to explain the omen of this and that. He has philosophical and metaphysical, and Lord knows what other puerile explanations for every superstition that belongs to his peculiar race, or his peculiar gods, or his peculiar village. Every little village superstition is to him a mandate of the Vedas, and upon the carrying out of it, according to him, depends the national life. You must beware of this. I would rather see every one of you rank atheists than superstitious fools. For the atheist is alive and you can make something out of him. But if superstition enters, the brain is gone. The brain is softening. Degradation has seized upon the life. Avoid these two. Brave, bold men. These are what we want. What we want is vigor in the blood, strength in the nerves, iron muscles, and nerves of steel, not softening, namby pamby ideas. Avoid all these. Avoid all mystery. There is no mystery in religion. Is there any mystery in the Vedanta, or in the Vedas, or in the Samhitas, or in the Puranas? What secret societies did the sages of yore establish to preach their religion? What sleight of hand tricks are there recorded as used by them to bring their grand truths to humanity? Mystery mongering and superstition are always signs of weakness. These are always signs of degradation and of death. Therefore, beware of them. Be strong and stand on your own feet. Great things are there, most marvelous things. We may call them supernatural things so far as our ideas of nature go, but not one of these things is a mystery. It was never preached on this soil that the truths of religion were mysteries or that they were the property of secret societies sitting on the snow caps of the Himalayas. I have been in the Himalayas. You have not been there. It is several hundreds of miles from your homes. I am a sannyasin, and I have been for the last 14 years on my feet. These mysterious societies do not exist anywhere. Do not run after these superstitions. Better for you and for the race that you become rank atheists, because you would have strength, but these are degradation and death. Shame on humanity that strong men should spend their time on these superstitions, spend all their time in inventing allegories to explain the most rotten superstitions of the world. Be bold. Do not try to explain everything that way. The fact is that we have many superstitions, many bad spots and sores on our body. These have to be excised, cut off, and destroyed. But these do not destroy our religion, our national life, our spirituality. Every principle of religion is safe, and the sooner these black spots are purged away, the better the principles will shine, the more gloriously. Stick to them. You hear claims made by every religion as being the universal religion of the world. Let me tell you in the first place that perhaps there never will be such a thing. But if there is a religion which can lay claim to be that, it is only our religion and no other, because every other religion depends on some person or persons. All the other religions have been built round the life of what they think a historical man, and what they think the strength of religion is really the weakness. For disprove the historicity of the man, and the whole fabric tumbles to ground. Half the lives of these great founders of religion have been broken into pieces, and the other half doubted very seriously. As such, every truth that had its sanction only in their words vanishes into air. But the truths of our religion, although we have persons by the score, do not depend upon them. The glory of Krishna is not that he was Krishna, but that he was the great teacher of Vedanta. If he had not been so, his name would have died out of India in the same way as the name of Buddha has done. Thus, our allegiance is to the principles always, and not to the persons. Persons are but the embodiments, the illustrations of the principles. If the principles are there, the persons will come by the thousands and millions. If the principle is safe, persons like Buddha will be born by the hundreds and thousands. But if the principle is lost and forgotten, and the whole of national life tries to cling round a so called historical person, woe unto that religion, danger unto that religion. Ours is the only religion that does not depend on a person or persons. It is based upon principles. At the same time, there is room for millions of persons. There is ample ground for introducing persons, but each one of them must be an illustration of the principles. We must not forget that these principles of our religion are all safe, and it should be the life work of every one of us to keep them safe, and to keep them free from the accumulating dirt and dust of ages. It is strange that in spite of the degradation that seized upon the race again and again, these principles of the Vedanta were never tarnished. No one, however wicked, ever dared to throw dirt upon them. Our scriptures are the best preserved scriptures in the world. Compared to other books, there have been no interpolations, no text torturing, no destroying of the essence of the thought in them. It is there just as it was first, directing the human mind towards the ideal, the goal. You find that these texts have been commented upon by different commentators, preached by great teachers, and sects founded upon them. And you find that in these books of the Vedas, there are various apparently contradictory ideas. There are certain texts which are entirely dualistic, others are entirely monistic. The dualistic commentator, knowing no better, wishes to knock the monistic texts on the head. Preachers and priests want to explain them in the dualistic meaning. The monastic commentator serves the dualistic text in a similar fashion. Now, this is not the fault of the Vedas. It is foolish to attempt to prove that the whole of the Vedas is dualistic. It is equally foolish to attempt to prove that the whole of the Vedas is non dualistic. They are dualistic and non dualistic both. We understand them better today in the light of newer ideas. These are but different conceptions leading to the final conclusion that both dualistic and monistic conceptions are necessary for the evolution of the mind, and therefore the Vedas preach them. In mercy to the human race, the Vedas show the various steps to the higher goal. Not that they are contradictory, vain words used by the Vedas to delude children. They are necessary not only for children, but for many a grown up man. So long as we have a body, and so long as we are deluded by the idea of our identity with the body, so long as we have five senses and see the external world, we must have a personal God. For if we have all these ideas, we must take, as the great Ramanuja has proved, all the ideas about God and nature and the individualized soul. When you take the one, you have to take the whole triangle. We cannot avoid it. Therefore, as long as you see the external world, to avoid a personal God and a personal soul is arrant lunacy. But there may be times in the lives of sages when the human mind transcends, as it were, its own limitations. Man goes even beyond nature, to the realm of which the Shruti declares, whence words fall back with the mind without reaching it. There the eyes cannot reach, nor speech, nor mind. We cannot say that we know it. We cannot say that we do not know it. There the human soul transcends all limitations, and then alone flashes into the human soul the conception of monism. I and the whole universe are one. I and Brahman are one. And this conclusion, you will find, has not only been reached through knowledge and philosophy, but parts of it through the power of love. You read in the Bhagavata, when Krishna disappeared and the gopis bewailed his disappearance, that at last the thought of Krishna became so prominent in their minds that each one forgot her own body and thought she was Krishna and began to decorate herself and to play as he did. We understand, therefore, that this identity comes even through love. There was an ancient Persian Sufi poet, and one of his poems says, I came to the beloved and beheld the door was closed. I knocked at the door, and from inside a voice came. Who is there? I replied, I am. The door did not open. A second time I came and knocked at the door, and the same voice asked, Who is there? I am so and so. The door did not open. A third time I came, and the same voice asked, Who is there? I am thyself, my love. And the door opened. There are therefore many stages, and we need not quarrel about them, even if there have been quarrels among the ancient commentators, whom all of us ought to revere. For there is no limitation to knowledge. There is no omniscience exclusively the property of any one in ancient or modern times. If there have been sages and rishis in the past, be sure that there will be many now. If there have been Vyasas and Valmikis and Shankaracharyas in ancient times, why may not each one of you become a Shankaracharya? This is another point of our religion that you must always remember, that in all other scriptures, inspiration is quoted as their authority. But this inspiration is limited to a very few persons, and through them the truth came to the masses, and we have all to obey them. Truth came to Jesus of Nazareth, and we must all obey him. But the truth came to the rishis of India, the mantra drashtas, the seers of thought, and will come to all rishis in the future, not to talkers, not to book swallowers, not to scholars, not to philologists, but to seers of thought. The self is not to be reached by too much talking, not even by the highest intellects, not even by the study of the scriptures. The scriptures themselves say so. Do you find in any other scripture such a bold assertion as that? Not even by the study of the Vedas will you reach the Atman. You must open your heart. Religion is not going to church, or putting marks on the forehead, or dressing in a peculiar fashion. You may paint yourselves in all the colors of the rainbow, but if the heart has not been opened, if you have not realized God, it is all vain. If one has the color of the heart, he does not want any external color. That is the true religious realization. We must not forget that colors and all these things are good so far as they help. So far, they are all welcome. But they are apt to degenerate, and instead of helping, they retard. And a man identifies religion with externalities. Going to the temple becomes tantamount to spiritual life. Giving something to a priest becomes tantamount to religious life. These are dangerous and pernicious, and should be at once checked. Our scriptures declare again and again that even the knowledge of the external senses is not religion. That is religion which makes us realize the unchangeable one. And that is the religion for everyone. He who realizes transcendental truth, he who realizes the Atman in his own nature, he who comes face to face with God, sees God alone in everything, has become a rishi. And there is no religious life for you until you have become a rishi. Then alone religion begins for you. Now is only the preparation. Then religion dawns upon you. Now you are only undergoing intellectual gymnastics and physical tortures. We must therefore remember that our religion lays down distinctly and clearly that everyone who wants salvation must pass through the stage of rishihood, must become a mantradrashta, must see God. That is salvation. That is the law laid down by our scriptures. Then it becomes easy to look into the scripture with our own eyes, understand the meaning for ourselves, to analyze just what we want, and to understand the truth for ourselves. This is what has to be done. At the same time, we must pay all reverence to the ancient sages for their work. They were great, these ancients, but we want to be greater. They did great work in the past, but we must do greater work than they. They had hundreds of rishis in ancient India. We will have millions. We are going to have. And the sooner every one of you believes in this, the better for India and the better for the world. Whatever you believe, that you will be. If you believe yourself to be sages, sages you will be tomorrow. There is nothing to obstruct you. For if there is one common doctrine that runs through all our apparently fighting and contradictory sects, it is that all glory, power, and purity are within the soul already. Only according to Ramanuja, the soul contracts and expands at times, and according to Shankara, it comes under a delusion. Never mind these differences. All admit the truth that the power is there, potential or manifest, it is there. And the sooner you believe that, the better for you. All power is within you. You can do anything and everything. Believe in that. Do not believe that you are weak. Do not believe that you are half crazy lunatics, as most of us do nowadays. You can do anything and everything without even the guidance of anyone. All power is there. Stand up and express the divinity within you.